The moon hung low over the paddocks, silver and cold, casting long shadows that stretched across the dew-soaked grass. I swung onto Orion with a smooth, practiced motion, feeling the familiar tension of the night seep into my veins. "You ready, boy?" I murmured. His ears twitched forward, nostrils flaring. Yes, we were ready, for everything the night might throw at us. A soft rustle behind me announced Lena's entrance. She stepped from the shadows carrying a thermos and a tray of sandwiches, eyes sparkling with mischief. "Arya, you look far too grim for a night of heroic larceny," she teased. "We're not just sneaking into a politician's estate, we're taking back the horses he's been hoarding and selling for profit. Think about that." I narrowed my eyes. "Fun is subjective, Lena. Let's focus on surviving first." She grinned, tossing a sandwich to Titan midair, who caught it without slowing his pace. "Survival? Psh, we're here for glory. And snacks," she added, bowing theatrically. A deep rumble of hooves cut through the night. Dax leaned casually on Shadow, flipping his reins with a flourish. "And here's the entertainment," he said, smirking. "I'll make sure all your moments of panic look like a warm-up act." Finn followed, calm and precise, guiding Titan. "I'll make sure Dax doesn't turn the field into a rodeo," he said, a faint grin tugging at his lips. From a small clearing, Rico's laptop screen glowed faintly in the darkness. Cameras, alarms, and every electronic obstacle handled. Just don't call me a nerd. I'm sensitive. I laughed softly, patting Orion's neck. "All right, team. Enough introductions. Tonight isn't about titles or bravado. It's about skill, instinct, and timing." We moved to the valley's edge, crouching in shadows. Below, the politician's estate sprawled, lights flickering across manicured lawns, horses restless in their pens. The ones we were here for, the ones stolen and sold, shifted nervously. Kale, a chestnut mare I had trained personally, pawed the ground and locked eyes with me. Her gaze said everything. "We can do this." I ran through the plan. "Lena, eyes inside the estate. Rico, you keep the tech blind. Dax and Finn lead the herd, and me, I'm the distraction, the underestimated socialite, the perfect cover." Lena snorted. "Underestimate you? That's everyone's default setting." "Exactly," I replied. "And tonight, it works to our advantage." The valley stretched before us like a stage set for danger. Guards patrolled, flashlights slicing through the dark. Dogs barked in the distance. Our horses weren't just mounts. They were our sensors, our allies, our shields. Kale nudged the younger ones forward, muscles coiled, ready, not following me, leading. Rico's voice crackled over the earpiece. "Camera loop active. You've got 5 minutes before the rotation." Titan froze as a guard's flashlight swung too close. My breath caught. Kale nudged him onward with quiet authority. One of the mares stumbled, but Orion and the others kept the group steady. Every hoofbeat, every nudge, every shift of weight was instinct and trust fused into one. When we reached the edge of the estate, it wasn't just skill or gadgets that had brought us this far. The stolen horses trusted us. They knew why we were here, and we had trained for this moment, together. I whispered to Kale, "A little further, girl. Just a little further." Beyond the valley lay open fields, the stretch where the night would truly test us. The chase, the escape, the razor edge between success and disaster. Tonight, we weren't just stealing back what was taken. We were reclaiming it, and no one would stop us. From the tree line, the mansion loomed like a fortress. Its stone walls gleamed faintly in the moonlight, iron fencing stretching like a cage. Floodlights crowned the terraces, cameras traced every angle, and guards moved in strict, overlapping patrols. This wasn't just a home, it was a high-security compound designed to keep secrets as much as horses. The politician behind it all had a reputation. Publicly, he was generous, a patron of local farms, a champion of equestrian events. a man who smiled for cameras, cut ribbons, and gave speeches about tradition and integrity. Behind the polished veneer, however, he was ruthless, trafficking prized horses, selling them on the black market, and manipulating farmers and officials alike to cover his tracks. Tonight, we weren't just confronting guards and gates, we were confronting the very mask of power. I crouched beside Orion, scanning the grounds. Every camera, every guard, every dog, they've been trained to notice movement, to spot fear. We can't just walk in. We have to earn every step. Rico's voice came softly through the comms. Perimeter sensors offline. 12-second window. Guards patrol in predictable loops, but even a second's hesitation and they'll notice. Timing is everything. Lena exhaled. So this is no joyride. The guy we're stealing from? Loved by everyone. Publicly untouchable. Privately... She trailed off, eyes narrowing at the shadows. Dangerous, I finished for her. We waited, pressed against the underbrush. Patrol lights swept past, hooves of horses clattering faintly in the distance. Every shift of the wind carried the scent of hay, manure, and the faint tang of fear from the paddocks. The first guard passed, the second passed. Then, just as the signal came from Rico, we moved. Orion stepped lightly, hooves placing themselves precisely on soft grass to avoid a telltale crunch. Kale mirrored him, muscles taut but controlled, her presence exuding calm authority. The others followed, Shadow, Titan, the younger horses all moving silently like ghosts. The outer fence rose before us, steel, reinforced, alarmed. Finn and Dax approached cautiously. Finn's tools glinted as he worked the lock. A soft click, the current cut, and we slipped through one at a time, keeping low behind hedges and shadows. Inside the estate, tension thickened. Every sound felt magnified. A distant dog bark, a guard shifting, the soft stamping of hooves from the stabled horses. We paused at each hedge, each shadow, every ridge, scanning, waiting, listening. This wasn't just stealth. It was patience. The first paddock appeared ahead, gates locked, lights swinging in slow arcs. The stolen horses were inside, restless and tense. Marks from tight halters and rough handling were evident. Their eyes, wide and anxious, followed every movement in the shadows. I exhaled slowly. Patience, I murmured. We can't rush. Kale stepped forward alone at first, eyes calm, ears pricked. The horses shifted, recognizing leadership rather than threat. Slowly, cautiously, they began to respond, ears flicking toward her, bodies relaxing in subtle increments. We advanced gate by gate. Guards passed too close at moments. Floodlights swung just narrowly off target. A patrol dog barked, alert but hesitant, and every heartbeat felt like a drum echoing across the estate. Finn worked each lock. Rico guided us with precise timing. Lena kept the blind spots covered, and Dax positioned Shadow to block sight lines. Every step forward was a negotiation, with the horses, with the environment, with the fear coiling in our chests. We were inside, yes, but the estate's defenses were awake, alert, and ready. The villain we faced, beloved by the public yet merciless in private, was just a step behind his men. His empire of corruption was built on masks, and tonight we were peeling them away, slowly, carefully, and dangerously. It would take more than courage to get the horses out. It would take precision, instinct, and trust. Between us and our horses. We didn't go straight for the paddocks. That was the mistake amateurs made, zeroing in on the prize and ignoring the maze around it. Instead, we hugged the inner perimeter, moving parallel to the estate rather than cutting through it. The mansion rose above us now, all glass and stone and false elegance, lights glowing warmly behind tall windows. Somewhere inside, the man who owned this place was probably sleeping peacefully, convinced his wealth and reputation made him untouchable. He'd built this estate to look open, inviting, Safe. It wasn't. Gravel paths crisscrossed the grounds, each one monitored. Decorative hedges hid motion sensors. Even the fountains weren't decorative. Pressure plates lined their bases, tuned to human weight. Whoever designed this, Finn muttered under his breath, didn't trust anyone. Men like him never do, I replied. Not really. We waited as a guard patrol crossed ahead of us, boots crunching softly. Their radios murmured low, coded check-ins exchanged with practiced ease. These weren't bored night watchmen. They were professionals, paid to protect something valuable, and they knew it. Rico's voice slid into our ears. Heads up! You've got a roaming thermal drone sweeping low altitude in 30 seconds. Don't move. We froze beneath a stand of cypress trees, horses lowering their heads instinctively. Kale shifted her weight just enough to shield a younger mare whose breathing had grown too fast. I felt Orion's muscles tighten beneath me, but he didn't move. Above us, a faint hum passed overhead. Then silence. You're clear, Rico said. For now. We moved again, slower this time. As we skirted the edge of the training grounds, banners fluttered in the breeze. Event banners, charity galas, equestrian showcases. The politician's smiling face was printed on every one of them. Preserving heritage, protecting tradition, supporting local breeders. I clenched my jaw. He stole those horses from the same people he shook hands with, Lena whispered. Farmers, trainers, families. And when they asked questions, Dax added quietly. He buried them in paperwork and lawsuits, I said. That's how he stays clean. The paddocks were closer now, but still not within reach. Between us and them lay the service corridor, a narrow strip of open ground with no cover and overlapping camera angles. Cross it wrong, and we'd light up the whole estate. We can't cross as a group, Finn said. Too much heat. I nodded. We stagger, 30-second intervals. One mistake, we abort. Kale flicked her ears, alert. She stepped forward once, then stopped, head high, nostrils flaring. Something wasn't right. A new sound drifted across the grounds. Footsteps. Faster. Purposeful. Unscheduled movement, Lena whispered urgently. 2 guards, not on the loop. They appeared from behind the stable block, flashlights cutting wide arcs. One laughed at something the other said. Too relaxed, too close. There was nowhere to go. I slid off Orion, pressing a hand against his shoulder, grounding him. Kale shifted in beside us, body angled protectively toward the younger horses. The guards passed less than 6 feet away, their lights sweeping over stone, grass, tree trunks, and stopping. One beam lingered too long. My pulse slammed. The guard squinted. Thought I saw... A horse snorted softly. Kale didn't flinch. She stepped forward just enough to look like part of the paddock line, head low, posture loose, not hiding, belonging. The guard frowned, then shrugged. Wind, he muttered, lowering the flashlight. They moved on. Only when their footsteps faded did I realize my hands were shaking. That, Dax breathed, was too close. And it's going to get worse, Rico said. You're approaching the inner paddock zone. That's where he keeps the most valuable stock. The horses we'd come for, the ones worth killing over. Ahead, the paddocks waited, locked, guarded, watched, the heart of the fortress. And somewhere above us, in a house full of lies and polished smiles, the man who believed nothing could touch him slept soundly. For now. We moved again, deeper into enemy ground, knowing the next mistake wouldn't be forgiven. We reached the outer edge of the paddocks without fanfare, no alarms, no shouting, no sudden rush. That alone felt wrong. The horses inside stood alert, clustered near the far fence. They weren't panicked, but they weren't calm either. Heads high, bodies angled to run. They'd learned caution the hard way. Don't move yet, I whispered. Let them see us before they hear us. We stayed where we were, half-shadowed, letting our silhouettes settle into the night. Horses noticed patterns before people did. Sudden movement meant danger. Stillness meant choice. Kale stepped forward first, slow, deliberate, not toward the gate, toward the fence line. She stopped a full body length away and lowered her head. The shift was immediate. One mare snorted softly. A colt shifted closer. Ears turned, not away, not flat, listening. Finn exhaled. They recognize her. They recognize confidence, I said, and honesty. I slid off Orion and moved beside Kale, keeping my posture loose, hands low, gaze indirect. No eye contact, no pressure, just presence. A guard's radio crackled somewhere near the mansion. Nobody moved, I murmured softly. Not words, not commands, just tone. The sound riders used when nothing was expected except calm. Kale mirrored me, stepping once, stopping, waiting. One of the stallions took a step forward, then another. "Easy," Dax breathed. "Easy." The gate loomed between us, locked, alarmed, wired into the estate's central system. Opening it wrong would scream betrayal. Finn knelt, tools poised. Once I start, we've got 90 seconds before the system pings a status check. Not yet, I said. The horses weren't ready. Pressure built in the silence. A patrol passed somewhere beyond the paddocks. Floodlights swept, paused, then moved on. Every second stretched. A young mare shifted suddenly, tension spiking, and Kale moved instantly. One step sideways, one calm nudge. She didn't block. She redirected. The mare settled. That was the moment. "They're with us," Lena whispered. "They've chosen." "Now," I said. Finn moved fast but controlled, bypassing the gate sensor with practiced precision. The lock disengaged with a soft click that sounded far too loud in the quiet. The gate swung open. No alarm. The horses hesitated. Then followed Kale, hooves careful, eyes never leaving her. They didn't bolt. They didn't rush. They trusted. Rico's voice cut in, suddenly sharper. "Hold! I'm seeing activity inside the mansion, not guards, him!" My stomach tightened. "Explain." "He's awake," Rico said. "Accessing the internal feed manually. That's not automated. He's checking something." Of course he was. Men like him didn't trust systems. They trusted control. As the last horse cleared the gate, one of the floodlights shifted, just slightly. A manual adjustment. Inside the mansion, the politician stood before a wall of screens, silk robe draped casually over power. He wasn't alarmed yet, just suspicious. A pattern was off. The paddock camera lagged half a second too long. A shadow moved where it shouldn't have. A gate stood open when it shouldn't exist at all. He leaned closer. "That's strange," he murmured. The first alarm didn't scream. It chimed, a low, polite tone, the kind that asked a question before making accusations. Rico swore under his breath. "He's triggered a manual verification. He knows something's wrong." Red lights began to glow faintly along the paddock perimeter. Not full lockdown. Yet. "We move," I said, mounting Orion in one smooth motion. "Now, we move." The horses felt it immediately. The shift in the air, the tightening of the night. Kale lifted her head, ears forward, and body ready. The fortress had noticed us, and the man behind it had just taken a personal interest. The chime wasn't enough. Inside the mansion, the politician stood very still, eyes locked on the screens. He'd built his life on instincts sharpened by power, reading hesitation, sensing weakness, knowing when something didn't belong. And something didn't. He tapped a command into the console. "Lock it down," he said softly. The estate answered immediately. Floodlights flared to full intensity, washing the paddocks in harsh white glare. Gates slammed shut across the grounds. Sirens cut the night, loud, unmistakable, violent. The full alarm. The horses exploded. Hooves struck dirt in frantic bursts. Bodies surged, reared, collided. A shrill whinny tore through the air as panic rippled from one animal to the next. "Easy! Easy!" Finn shouted, trying to keep the line together. Too late. A young colt spun free, slamming into the fence. Another mare bolted blindly toward the lights. Fear had the reins now. Guards poured from the mansion and service buildings, flashlights slicing wildly, radios erupting with overlapping commands. "Perimeter breach! Paddock C compromised!" Kale reacted before any of us did. She surged forward, not running, not chasing, claiming space, head high, ears pinned, body squared to the panic. She cut across the fleeing horses, forcing them to slow, to turn, to see her. I swung Orion beside her, using my voice, not shouting but grounding, low, steady, the sound of certainty. "Stay with us! Stay with me!" Another siren blared. A gate slammed shut somewhere ahead. Dax cursed. "They're herding us into a kill zone!" "No!" Lena snapped. "They think they are!" Kale wheeled sharply, choosing a path the floodlights hadn't yet claimed. She didn't hesitate. Horses never trusted hesitation. One by one, the panic fractured. The colt stopped running. The mare circled back. Ears turned. Breath slowed. The chaos thinned just enough for instinct to change shape, from fear to survival. "They're looking at her," Finn said, awe cutting through his urgency. "They're waiting." Kale moved, and they followed. Not because they were trained, because in that moment, she was the safest thing in the world. Guards shouted as the herd shifted direction, slipping through a gap that hadn't existed seconds earlier. A floodlight swung too slow. A gate closed too late. Inside the mansion, the politician's calm finally cracked. "They're not supposed to do that," he snapped. "They don't move like that." But they were no longer reacting. They were choosing. We broke into motion as one. Horses and riders fused into a single flowing line. Hooves thundered. Radios screamed. The fortress roared in protest. But its greatest weakness had already been exposed. It had underestimated the one thing it could never control: trust. The first gust of panic hadn't even fully settled when the politician emerged, stepping onto the ridge above the paddocks. Moonlight gleamed off his tailored suit, a cruel contrast to the dirt-streaked horses and riders below. His smile, so familiar in public, was gone, replaced by a tight-lipped scowl, eyes glittering with anger and disbelief. "You really think you can just waltz in and take what's mine?" His voice carried across the field, smooth, commanding, every word coated in authority. "These horses, this estate, everything here belongs to me." I felt Orion shift beneath me, muscles coiling as the horses sensed the rising tension. Kale's ears flicked forward, chestnut muscles taut, eyes blazing. She had felt the fear ripple through the herd, but more importantly, she understood our purpose. "They don't belong to you," I shouted back, voice steady even as my pulse raced. "You've stolen from the people who raised them, trained them, loved them. These horses are more than property. They're living beings, and tonight they go home." The politician laughed, but it was hollow. "Home? You mean to your rebellion? Your little stunt? You think anyone will care about your morality? Power is what matters. Influence. Profit. That's the world you live in. And you're stepping right out of your depth." Kale stomped, a sharp warning. Orion and Titan flanked her. The younger horses shifted instinctively, aligning behind her as though she were the axis of a living shield. Every ounce of fear the politician tried to project bounced off the herd. "You underestimated us," I said quietly, almost to myself, then louder, "and you underestimated them." A shout from his guards broke through the moment. Floodlights swung, casting long, twisting shadows over the paddocks. Sirens wailed again, signaling the estate's full alarm. Dax leaned forward on Shadow. "Now we ride. Stick with Kale. She knows the way." With a surge, Kale led the herd, hooves thundering across the dew-slick grass. Orion surged beside her, Titan guarding the rear. The horses we had earned trust from moments before now followed her instinctively, bodies coiled and precise, muscles rippling with purpose. The politician barked orders, trying to direct his men to intercept, but every move felt reactive. The herd had already chosen its path. The ridge loomed ahead, a narrow spine of earth and rock. Once we reached it, the open fields beyond would be ours, if we survived the first rush. We hit the ridge at a full gallop. The stolen horses surged forward, hooves kicking up clumps of wet earth. Kale twisted sharply to avoid a fallen branch, weaving expertly between trees and rocks. Orion followed her line without hesitation, Titan covering the rear, keeping the younger horses from breaking. "Flank left!" Lena shouted from the edge of the ridge, signaling a hidden gap between the trees. The herd responded immediately. One of the politician's SUVs roared into view below, trying to cut us off, headlights blinding in the mist, engine growling like a predator. But Kale anticipated, veering the group sharply. Hooves struck roots, splashed shallow puddles, the sound rhythmic, organized, unstoppable. The chase was chaos turned into choreography. Each horse moved not for fear but for trust. Guards shouted, vehicles skidded, but we pressed forward, keeping the stolen animals safe while maintaining speed. I glanced down at Kale's face, sweat and moonlight mixing into streaks on her chestnut coat. Her eyes were alive, intelligent, fearless, unflinching. Every leap, turn, and surge was her choice, her judgment, and every horse behind her obeyed instinctively. The politician's fury was tangible even from a distance. He screamed orders, first into radios, then directly, shaking his fists at the fleeing herd. "Stop them! Do you hear me? Stop them!" We didn't. The ridge opened to a shallow valley. Mist hovered over grass slick with dew. Kale pushed forward, muscles coiling, guiding the horses over a small stream in perfect unison. Orion and Titan flanked the younger colts, nudging and guiding them without breaking stride. I yelled over the roar of hooves, my voice raw but sure. "Trust her! Stay with her!" By the time the valley ended and the tree line appeared ahead, the herd had passed through unscathed. The politicians' vehicles could follow, but the terrain would slow them, and more importantly, the horses were in control now. Fearless and bonded to their leaders, their trust earned, their freedom in motion. From the edge of the forest, I looked back once. The man's fury had not diminished, but it no longer mattered. The herd, the stolen horses we had rescued, moved as one living force, guided by courage, intelligence, and loyalty. Kale's ears flicked forward, muscles rippling as she slowed into a controlled trot. Orion, Titan, and the others followed, forming a protective semicircle around the herd. The chase was over, for now. But the night had shown us everything, the villain's ruthlessness, the stakes of the mission, and the unshakable bond between humans and horses when trust had been earned under fire. The forest swallowed us instantly. Trees loomed like dark sentinels, branches scraping arms and faces as hooves pounded against leaf-strewn earth. The horses adapted immediately, striking precisely, bodies coiled for agility. Kale led, ears flicking, muscles rippling, eyes locked on the narrow path ahead. Every movement communicated trust, every subtle nudge was instruction. The herd hesitated for a heartbeat at a fallen log. The young colt froze, eyes wide. Kale slowed, pressing a reassuring chestnut shoulder against him, nudging gently but firmly. Orion mirrored her. Titan guarded the rear. One by one, the colts and mares regained composure, following instinct and trust rather than fear. Behind us, the faint hum of the politicians' vehicles echoed through the trees, but the dense forest slowed them. The chase became a test of instinct, navigation, and leadership. "Watch the bend!" Lena shouted, pointing to a twisting path flanked by sharp rocks. Kale anticipated it perfectly, veering just enough to avoid a collision while keeping the herd aligned. Hooves thundered, hearts raced, but no one faltered. By the time the forest opened into a clearing, we were exhausted, but safe. Lanterns were already lit, casting a soft glow over the temporary safe zone we had prepared. The stolen horses slowed, ears swiveling, muscles gradually relaxing. Kale moved to the center, chest heaving, eyes scanning every angle. Orion and Titan flanked her, young colts circling inward, sensing the safety of the space. We dismounted, hands shaking with adrenaline. Dax dropped to the ground beside Shadow, letting him graze. Finn checked the youngest horses, brushing mud and leaves from their coats. Lena knelt beside a mare, murmuring softly, calm and reassuring. I crouched beside Kale, running my hands along her neck. "You did it, girl. Every single one of them trusted you when they had every reason not to." She nudged me gently in return, acknowledging the praise without breaking focus. Rico, still monitoring feeds on his tablet, let out a quiet sigh. "The evidence is intact. The herd is secure, and we've documented everything." For a long moment, silence stretched. The forest reclaimed its normal sounds. The rustle of leaves, distant birds, the soft crunch of hooves on grass. For the first time all night, we allowed ourselves to breathe. At the mansion, the politician sank into his chair, staring at the empty paddocks on the screens. The herd was gone, his security gaps exposed, his property lost, reputation, control, everything carefully constructed, all slipping through his fingers. He sat in silence, feeling the empire he had built on charm and influence crumble beneath him. Then he remembered the microchip. Weeks ago, he had secretly implanted it in one of the prized horses, a failsafe, a way to track the herd without anyone knowing. A spark of hope ignited in his chest. Perhaps all was not lost. A slow, calculating smile spread across his face. The chip could reveal their movements, their hideouts, their next steps. The herd had escaped the night, but he still had a tool, a secret advantage. For the first time since the chase began, he felt that familiar surge of confidence. Not everything had slipped away, not yet. Meanwhile, in the clearing, Kale tossed her mane, ears forward, eyes bright and alert. The team moved among the rescued horses, tending to them, sharing quiet laughter and patting their coats. The stolen horses grazed, tails swishing, ears swiveling attentively. Safety, trust, and justice all intertwined. We gathered, breath ragged, hearts still racing. Kale's gaze swept the forest, protective and proud. Orion and Titan flanked the younger colts and mares. The bond we had forged between humans and horses, fear and trust, instinct and leadership, had carried us through every danger, every misstep, every shadowed stretch of the ridge. And in that golden dawn light filtering through the trees, we realized something powerful. The stolen horses were safe, the evidence secured, and our team, riders and herd alike, stronger than we had ever been. The politician's SUV tore through the forest edge, headlights cutting like knives through the pre-dawn mist. Guards clung to the sides, shouting orders, weapons flashing in the dim light. Every instinct screamed to intercept the herd, reclaim control, and punish those who had humiliated him. But the forest had already claimed its advantage. Kale led the horses with precise, confident movements, each step calculated, each turn anticipating pursuit. Orion and Titan flanked the younger horses, creating a living barricade, while the team's earlier mapping of the escape route ensured we weren't running blindly. "Watch the ridge ahead!" Lena's voice crackled over the earpiece. "Police are in position. Don't spook the herd." The politician's face twisted with fury as they emerged into an open meadow, the very home court the riders had trained for, a place where every tree, rock, and slope was familiar. The horses responded instantly to Kale's leadership, weaving between obstacles, keeping calm under extreme pressure. He slammed the brakes, trying to maneuver around a fallen tree, but it was too late. Lights flashed ahead. Local police, tipped off by Rico, were already blocking the exit routes, forming a coordinated cordon. The politician cursed, slamming his fist against the steering wheel, realizing the plan was unraveling faster than he could adapt. Kale didn't falter. She surged forward, chestnut muscles coiling and releasing in perfect rhythm, guiding the herd along the safest path, instinctively avoiding chaos while maintaining speed. Orion and Titan mirrored her movements, flanking colts and mares, ensuring none were left behind. The first patrol car lights reflected in the dew-soaked grass. Officers stepped forward, commanding the road, their positions precise, their timing impeccable. The herd flowed past them safely, still under full control, every hoofbeat in sync with its leader. The politician skidded to a halt at the edge of the clearing, rage and disbelief painting his features. "No, this isn't happening. They can't be ahead of me." Finn at the rear called out, voice steady. "They've been one step ahead the whole time. You underestimated the horses, and us." Dax smirked from the flank, holding Shadow steady. "And now you're trapped. No escape, no stolen horses, no leverage." The politician's men fumbled, frustrated, trying to find a gap, but every possible exit was covered, every move anticipated. He pressed his hands to the wheel, realizing the full extent of his failure. The herd was safe. The riders had outsmarted him, and law enforcement ensured there was no way to reclaim what he had tried to control. Kale slowed just enough to guide the youngest colts past the final officers, ears forward, eyes calm but alert. Orion flanked the rear, Titan nudged the stragglers, and we finally reached the home court clearing, a secure place prepared for the night's end. The politician's SUV ground to a stop 100 meters away. He jumped out, shouting orders that fell on deaf ears. Police officers calmly stepped in, surrounding his vehicle, taking control of the scene. The public persona he had so carefully crafted, a philanthropist, a beloved figure, was gone, replaced by the reality of his greed and cruelty. We dismounted, letting the horses graze, their muscles slowly relaxing. The herd was safe, evidence documented, and the villain finally forced to confront the consequences of his actions. The microchip he had relied on might still give him hope, but for now, it was irrelevant. The night, the escape, and the team's planning had already won. Kale tossed her mane, ears forward, eyes bright. Orion and Titan flanked the colts and mares. The team, riders and horses alike, shared quiet, exhausted laughter. Justice had been served, trust restored, and the bond between human and animal stronger than ever. The forest swallowed us in shadows as we raced toward our home court, branches whipping past and hooves pounding the dew-soaked ground. Kale led the herd with precision, muscles rippling beneath her chestnut coat, ears pinned forward, eyes blazing with focus. Orion and Titan flanked the younger horses, creating a living shield while we maneuvered through the twisting paths we had memorized. Behind us, the politician's SUV roared through the trees, headlights slicing the mist. Guards leaned from the doors, shouting, weapons raised, but every move had been anticipated. Lena's voice crackled over the earpiece. "Police are in position at the ridge. Stay calm, don't spook the herd." The first open meadow revealed the final leg of our plan. Sunlight had not yet reached the horizon, leaving the forest in a silver-gold haze. The herd responded to Kale's leadership, weaving around fallen trees and shallow creeks, moving as one, instinct and training perfectly aligned. Orion flanked the rear, nudging the frightened colts along, while Titan mirrored his movements at the center. The politician's SUV skidded to a halt as police lights cut through the mist, officers stepping into position to block every exit. The man jumped out, face red with rage, fists clenched. "This isn't happening. Those horses, those fools, you'll regret this." He barked at his men, but no plan could overcome the blockade. We dismounted, letting the herd roam within the secured clearing. Kale and Orion grazed. Titan nudged a young mare gently, and the colts and recovered mares relaxed, muscles loosening after the night's chaos. Lena tossed a carrot to one of the chestnut mares. "Victory snack," she said, grinning. "After surviving a corrupt politician, I think we've earned it." Dax collapsed onto the grass, shadow brushing against him. "And maybe a nap," he muttered, voice still trembling with adrenaline. Finn crouched beside Titan, brushing mud from his legs. We survived. They survived. All of us together. I knelt by Kale, running my hands along her neck. "You did it, girl! Every one of them trusted you. You kept us alive." She nudged me gently, ears flicking forward, chest heaving with pride. Rico leaned back against a tree, tablet off for the first time since dusk, a rare smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "And we have everything documented. Digital proof, escape routes, witnesses. The politician can rage all he wants. It's over. Justice is done." Lena joined us near Kale. "Look at them. They trusted us completely, not just because we rode them, but because we led them. Courage, calm, care. They followed because we earned it." We settled in the clearing, passing around food, recounting moments of panic and triumph. Dax retold his most dramatic save with exaggerated flair, Finn corrected him with precise detail, and Lena rolled her eyes, laughing at both. Kale and Orion nuzzled our shoulders as if joining in the camaraderie. Lena pulled out a thermos of cocoa. "After surviving a full-scale chase, I declare this a victory snack." Dax sipped, flopping back against Shadow. "I vote for a nap as well." Finn laughed. "Only you would combine chocolate and exhaustion after almost getting trampled by a politician's guards." I nudged Kale, who nudged me back. "We survived because we trusted each other," I said. "And because we trusted them." Lena raised her cup. "To teamwork, humans and horses. Panache, chaos, and chocolate." "To chocolate," Dax echoed, mock solemnity in his voice, and we all clinked cups, laughter mingling with soft nuzzles and contented whinnies. In that moment, the politician's fury remained irrelevant. He pounded his SUV's hood, hands shaking, screaming threats that faded into the forest. No empathy, no remorse, only rage. He remembered the microchip he had secretly installed in one of the horses, a last thread of hope to track the herd. But for now, it was irrelevant. The horses were safe, we were safe, and law enforcement had sealed the scene. The sun rose fully, casting warm light over the clearing. Kale tossed her mane proudly, ears forward, eyes bright. Orion and Titan flanked the colts and mares. We, the human team, sat back, sharing quiet laughter, hugs, and whispered congratulations. The forest echoed with calm but vigilant energy, alive with freedom restored. I leaned over Kale's neck. "We couldn't have done it without you, girl. You led, protected, and inspired. We all did this together." She nickered softly in response, ears flicking forward, a sound that seemed to say, "We're ready for anything, together." The night tested courage, skill, and trust. The villain's empire had faltered, his rage powerless against the bond between humans and horses. And in that golden light, surrounded by the herd and my team, it felt absolute. We had reclaimed what was stolen, triumphed over greed and corruption, and forged a family that would endure far beyond the chase. Thank you for listening. If this horse story stayed with you, feel free to like, subscribe, and explore more stories on the channel. Until next time.